January 20th, 2015, Lungu beats his closest rival, Hakainde Hichilema, in the presidential elections. He wins by a narrow margin, 27,757 votes, with just 32.36% of the registered voters participating. But that wasn't Lungu's biggest battle, for the real battle was being president of his own party. (2011) The PF wins the general election and Lungu becomes the junior minister in the vice president's office. Thereafter, he is promoted to Minister of Home Affairs. The very next year, he becomes Minister of Defense after Geoffrey Waria Mwamba resigns. Lungu also functioned as acting president during President Michael Sata's long-term illness in 2013 to 2014. In addition, he held a string of central positions in the party, including chair of the PF Central Committee on Discipline. And on the 28th of August 2014, he is appointed as Minister of Justice, replacing Winter Kavimba. As Sata goes for treatment on 19th October 2014, he leaves Lungu in charge of the country in his absence. On October 28th, 2014, President Michael Chilufya Sata dies, becoming the second president to die in power. The death of Sata puts the PF in a state of confusion, splitting the party in two camps, creating the Scott camp and the Lungu camp. Vice President Dr. Guy Scott takes over as acting president, yet Lungu was still viewed as the main contender to succeed Sata in a presidential by-election. A war between Edgar Lungu's camp and the acting president, Dr. Guy Scott, begins.
I am asking the acting president of this republic, Dr. Guy Scott, to relieve one Edgar Lungu of his portfolios as Minister of Justice and Minister of Defense. I'll tell you why. If anything, and God forbid, were to happen to the sitting acting president, the next person in line is Edgar Lungu, the Minister of Defense. And as it is right now, he does not possess the mental disposition to be the one in charge of peace and security. Because you just need to refer back to the happenings at their conference. A total of over 1,000 officers were mobilized to keep guard at their convention.
On the 3rd of November 2014, Acting President Dr. Guy Scott dismisses Lungu as Secretary General of the PF, replacing him with Davis Mwila, Chipili Member of Parliament. But Scott reinstates Lungu the very next day. In 2015, Lungu's camp was denied access to State House as they tried to attend a meeting led by acting president.
We have been very loyal to this party, including Guy Scott. We have been very loyal. He's not providing leadership. That's not leadership we are looking for. It is not leadership.
See, we are already trying to bring divisions where they should not be. I mean, for the sake of this party, for the sake of Michael Sata, we need to be serious about these things. The people who love Sata should not create tensions of this nature.
This is the camp that fought so hard to make sure that Zambians elected the most humble leader as claimed by the PF members. PF National Chairperson Inonge Wina receives a petition of 63 PF MPs and senior party members urging the adoption of PF Secretary General Edgar Lungu as the party candidate for the upcoming general elections. But to Scott, the actions by the Central Committee members were against the PF Constitution. In the heat of the day, Dr. Christine Kaseva, Anthony Kasolo, Daniel Mukombwe, and Acting President Guy Scott pleaded with Edgar Chagwa Lungu, who was allegedly held hostage at a meeting in Kahima Barracks, Chagwa. The venue for the meeting was carefully selected so as to instill fear in ECL. This was to have him withdraw his PF presidential candidature and pave way for Dr. Christine Kaseva. Lungu refused. Instructions had been issued by the barracks commander and IG who were present in that meeting to say if ECL refuses to surrender, he must be arrested and cited for supporting anarchy at Lungu Rock, where thousands of PF and ECL supporters were anxiously waiting. But ECL refused to back down to the demands of Guy Scott and his merciless team. Scott threatens Lungu, saying over his dead body was he going to drive to Mulungushi Rock of Authority to open the convention if Lungu doesn't back down. At this point, Lungu excuses himself to answer a phone call outside in the corridor, but sneaks out from the barracks with the view to dash to Mulungushi Rock of Authority to address his supporters who were slowly becoming agitated at the non-appearance of Guy Scott, who called for that convention. At about 2.5 kilometers from the venue of the hostage meeting to Kohima Barracks, at the main gate on Kawendola Road, Lungu and his men jumped on vehicles to Mulungushi Rock of Authority. But just before getting to the gate, the helicopter that has flown ACL and the team from Lusaka takes off, flying over their heads with Guy Scott and his team inside. But one person was left behind. After ECL snuck out of that meeting, a heated argument between Guy Scott and Mama Inonge Wina ignited as she asked Scott why he so wanted to kill the party of his friend Michael C. Sata with his undemocratic and reasonable tendencies and his hate for Edgar Lungu, who happened to be the majority PF member choice for party president. Mama Wina was left for backing ECL in that meeting. ECL arrives at Mulungushi Rock of Authority to a thunderous welcome of excited PF delegates. They cheer him on as he sits on the stage. The agony was that there was no one present amongst the PF senior members who had power to call the delegates to order and officially declare the convention over. According to the PF party constitution, the PF convention can only be called to order by a PF president or acting PF president or party national chairperson. In this case, Dr. Guy Scott had refused to go officially open this convention on demand that Edgar Lungu withdraws the party presidential race. The convention could not be opened till Inonge Wina was in our presence. On 30th November, Lungu is elected as president of the Patriotic Front at the National Convention of the party held in Kavu, Zambia. It looks like the storm is over. The waters are calm. It's smooth sailing from here on. Well, so thought the Lungu camp. But Guy Scott started to mobilize. He refused to go down without a fight, claiming he had sacrificed a lot for the party for anyone but him to leave. So he calls for another convention to be held the very next day. The news of the new convention reaches KBF. To stop this convention, KDF needs an injunction in which he works all night to prepare. He knocks on the door of the judge at 4 o'clock in the morning. By 5, he has him sign the papers. At exactly 10 minutes before 6, the injunction was delivered at President Lungu's house. The president then said the injunction had to reach Mulungushi to stop the convention. The injunction was no good, for one cannot serve an injunction on the president. Dr. Scott was amazed to learn that President Lungu's team was crawling into judges' offices at 04 a.m. to stop the legitimate convention. The convention takes place, and there Sata is declared the winner. But this holds no water, for ECL will still view as the elected president. Imparted acting president Dr. Guy Scott continues to claim his colleagues have no power to remove him. He repeats earlier threats that any cabinet member seeking to meet without his authority or consent would constitute an act of treason. Wednesday, 17th December 2014, 14 cabinet ministers out of 20 demand the resignation of Scott for acts that he has endangered the peace, security, and stability of the country with his provocative actions and continuous breach of law. They accused him of regularly consulting private individuals when making fundamental government decisions, disregarding established institutes and bodies such as Cabinet or the Party Central Committee. Many observers had acknowledged that Scott was likely working with forces opposite the candidature of PF President Edgar Lungu. Scott is also accused of planning the formation and support of the then newly established party, the Rainbow Party. The walls are coming down on Scott, but the fight is not over. The Attorney General and Secretary of Cabinet transfers power from Acting President Edgar Lungu to Vice President Guy Scott. Lungu submits that the Attorney General instilled fear in him and the cabinet ministers were forcing him to surrender the instruments of power to Guy Scott, in which they said if he didn't, he would be arrested for treason. But Lungu never did. Lungu contested the presidential by-election and beat his closest rival, Hakainde Hichilema, of the United Party for National Development, and becomes the 6th president of Zambia.